Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast, a podcast carefully designed to introduce a wide range of very talented and highly skilled professionals ready to share their knowledge and advice with you. Please welcome the host of I Got a Guy podcast, Michael Drelichars. Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast. I'm your host, Michael Drelichars. Thank you so much for being here. To all of our loyal subscribers, we thank you for your loyalty, and we encourage you to continue to share this set of podcasts and YouTube videos with your spheres of influence. Share it via social media, your website, LinkedIn, etc. But we'd love to get the stories and the messages out to everybody and help our referral partners and our guests that are on the show, which are typically referral partners. We help these businesses grow and thrive and continue to serve more people. So the I Got a Guy podcast was, as you know, born out of a book called The Go-Giver. And in that book, there were 5 laws of stratospheric success. And the law I want to focus on today is the law of value. And our guest we're gonna share how she gives more in value than she receives in payment. And I can attest from firsthand experience, and I'm sure you all will get that feeling as well when you hear her speak about the knowledge that she has in her area of expertise. If you want to catch any past episodes you may have missed, you can go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com. And there's a list of all of our episodes. You can also go to our YouTube channel. There's a link at igotaguypodcast.com. A link to our YouTube channel where you can see those episodes and read a little history about a little synopsis about each episode. Pick and choose which episodes you want to download and listen to, and hopefully listen to them all. Hopefully all have some value for you, but you can certainly pick and choose what fits you best. So let's move on to our guest this week. So our guest she's returning here for the second time, and this time of year we're recording this show in November, and it's the perfect time to have this conversation because she's in the healthcare field, and healthcare open enrollment is open now through December 15th. So this is a great time if you are thinking about your health insurance plans for next year, for 2024. Now is the perfect time to have a conversation. So please help me welcome Saadia Abdul with Health Markets to the show. Saadia, thank you so much for joining us yet again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Always. Saadia, we've spoken many times over the past several years, and I'm impressed with your background and how you approach this whole healthcare market. You're not doing it from a standpoint of, gee, I got to sell insurance, but you're really doing it from a standpoint of how can I help more families? So let's talk a little bit about your history and how you came into health markets and why you're doing what you do such a great job at.
Sure. So thank you again for having me. And as you mentioned, this is the busy time of year, but I did feel like it was important enough to still join you for this podcast because you're doing great work by hosting all of us businesses in that area. So thank you. My history is, so I actually did corporate benefits for well over 20 years, almost 25 years. And when I was in corporate benefits, I was helping individuals even there. So even though it was, I was doing the benefit plan design for sometimes 6,000, 7,000 employees, it was still those individual employees who came into my office with their personal stories, asking for help, that really I found value in my time there in corporate. So when I left corporate back in 2018, I really had some time to think about what did I miss the most. What was I missing in my life at that time? Because I have 2 kids, would definitely keep me busy, husband, family. So what I did miss was helping these individual families. In particular, I had an employee who came to me. He had 2, not just one, but 2 autistic children. And at the time, he was in tears. Here's a grown man in my office at work in tears because there wasn't services that he could afford that his children needed. And at that time, our health insurance plan didn't cover autistic services. Well, that hit me pretty hard. And I took that up the ladder into the boardroom. And it took me a couple of years, but we finally got autistic services to be covered by our group health insurance plan.
That's awesome.
That same employee who I didn't have his name and number, I didn't ask for it at the time. He actually made it a point to come back to me once that was implemented to thank me. That still sits with me. I mean, this is years later. We're probably almost 10 years ago this happened, and it's still sitting with me. How much I impacted that family's life by just advocating for them. I mean, really, that's all I did was advocate for those services. So those types of situations what's really influenced now my present life, which is doing I'm an independent health insurance agent. I help people, pretty much anyone. So there's no age limit. I help Medicare age, I help under 65, I help newborn babies. Just this summer I had a guy who he got my number from someone. His wife was pregnant. They were planning for it, and all of a sudden now this baby needed health insurance that was born. And he was panicking. He missed the enrollment period to enroll the baby at his job, because you do have to enroll the baby within 31 days of birth, when you're working and have a group health plan. I advised him to try to file an appeal through the employer because, this happened to me a few times when I was in corporate where I had people who genuinely forgot to enroll the baby, or they assumed it would be automatic. It's not automatic. You have to actively add the baby to coverage. And I would have appeals come up to my desk, and, I think every single time I ended up approving the appeal because I didn't want that newborn to go without coverage. Well, in
Sure.
this situation, the guy's employer did not approve the appeal. So we had to get down and figure out what are we going to do with a brand new baby who needs health insurance because they
Sure.
have to go to the pediatrician. So we did it. And this guy actually just called me this week. We're working on some other things for him to help protect his family. So I think what I'm doing is having a real impact on people's lives. And that's what's so rewarding.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And when we think about the cost of medical care, yeah, the idea of going without health insurance is frightening, frankly, for people at any stage of their life. I know a lot of I've heard kids that are in their 20s think that they're invincible. They don't need health insurance, but I don't think it matters. I think every American needs health insurance, because you never know when an accident's going to happen. You never know when you can get sick, and the cost of appropriate health care could bankrupt anybody.
I have another example. One of my clients went for a pedicure in her 20s with the family. Like, it was a girls' night out, mom, grandma, sisters. From that pedicure, she's had to amputate both her legs, knees down. So this is a 30-something-year-old girl now who's on Medicare, disabled, and Medicaid because she has no more money from the bills. So that's a real life one of my clients. So to your point, doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah, that is horrific. And
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's life takes funny turns sometimes, and we're just a passenger in this boat, and we really don't know what's next.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you're there to help these families and these individuals. So you said that you help individual families that either don't have any health insurance with their employer, or maybe not adequate health insurance with their employer. You can supplement.
I can supplement with some ancillary benefits, like a hospital plan or an accident plan or critical illness. Yes. So yeah, I tell everybody, anyone, even if they're working for Target, a huge company. I literally last night I was helping mom and son. The son works for Target, so I just help to evaluate what options are available to him as the employee and what other things he could possibly get. So I really consider my services more consultative and
Hmm.
educational because sometimes we're doing a lot of creative thinking, trying to figure out how do we best support the family. I mean, if you think about it, in a younger family, there's typically two spouses or two parents and the children. Not everybody has equal needs. So sometimes I'm putting the husband on one plan, the wife on another, because if the wife's pregnant, she's obviously the one incurring the expenses, not the husband. So, we're able to get creative, and most people would not be able to do that on their own or don't even know that they can do that. And then on the other side of the spectrum, my Medicare friends, Once you get to Medicare age, Medicare is an individual benefit. It's not a husband-wife benefit or a family benefit. It's individual. And so sometimes I'm having this conversation with my Medicare folks where the husband and wife have been on the same health insurance plan their whole marriage. And now all of a sudden they can be on separate plans, and that scares them. So I have to educate them on why that's important, because even if you've been married for 60 years, your health needs are not going to be the same. Your doctors are not necessarily the same. Your health conditions are not the same. Therefore, you don't need the same exact coverage.
Right.
So it's a lot about learning about my clients and exploring options.
So let's talk about Medicare for a second, a little more detail. When you turn 65, you're eligible for Medicare Part A, which is the hospitalization. I think we used to call it major medical um, type services. And then there's the doctor visits and things of that nature, where if you're not employed, the Medicare coverage, you pay extra for that, and that would cover your doctor visits, your co-pays, and that sort of thing, right?
Well, it covers 80%. A
Oh,
and B
okay.
covers 80% only. Yeah.
And then there's prescription coverage as well, right?
Well, you have to purchase that in addition.
At the
It
separate.
doesn't come along. It's not automatic at age 65.
Okay. So I guess to that point, you really need to sit down and understand, um, maybe what type of medications you're taking, because some medications are a lot more expensive than others.
That's right.
Maybe you're not taking many medications, and the prescription plan isn't that valuable at this point in time. But you need to understand it. So you have the software available to kind of enter in all the medications somebody is taking, and their dosages, and then figure out what the cost would be and if it makes sense.
Yeah, and it's even broader than that, doctors as well. And with medications, the interesting thing is it all depends on the formulary with each carrier. So one drug might be covered on one plan and not covered on another. So we have to really evaluate those prescriptions and make sure the coverage we're looking at covers you appropriately, and make sure that your doctors are also in the network, because there's networks, and we want to make sure that all your doctors are covered appropriately. So yes, I have a system that helps me with that. But I do need to get to know my clients. So it's really important for me to hear what's important to each of my clients, because we're all human. So what's important to me might not be as important to you, and then keep on going down, right?
Sure.
So that's all part of this process. And that's what I help guide people through this journey of Medicare. And what I really like to emphasize is it's not that I'm there just to get you enrolled and then I disappear. I'm along for the ride. So I talk to my clients at least once a year, if not more often. If they need help or have questions, they have my cell phone number. So this is not, I call an 800 number, talk to different reps, and have to give my story over and over again. I do try to make it a point to get to know my clients, and really be able to help them with their situation along the journey.
Right. That is great, and that is a valuable service that you offer. Now, if your medical situation changes throughout the year, so you enroll now in open enrollment with a certain set of plans for your doctors and your pharmacy, and in May of next year something changes, you could be in a challenging situation for a few months until you get to re-enroll, correct, at the end of the following year.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of no different than even when you're on your employer insurance under
Sure.
65, because the annual enrollment is once a year. However, on the Medicare side of things, sometimes we're able to make changes mid-year. It depends on the specific situation and what's happening. So I always stress to my clients, give me a call. Like, you never know. We might be able to make a change mid-year. So give me a call. Let's talk. Let's see what's available to us. I mean, in the Medicare world, it's kind of constantly evolving. And, sometimes if there's like a major snowstorm, all of a sudden Medicare will allow us to do a special enrollment period during a few months after that. It's very
Really?
fascinating. Or like when the fires were going on out west, and they were allowing us to do this emergency special enrollment period when the monkeypox was going around. They allowed us to do a special enrollment period for monkeypox. So But us as agents, we are aware of these opportunities. The average consumer won't know that. So unless you ask, I don't know. I mean, I might tell you, sorry, we can't do anything right now. But hey, if we can, I'll do it.
Right. So all the more reason to stay in contact with you throughout the year as your situation may evolve or change,
That's right.
and just to see what options are. Worst
That's
thing that
right.
could happen is your situation changes. It's costing you a lot more money, and when it comes to open enrollment, you share the story. You realize you could have made a change and you didn't.
Yep.
But it costs you a lot more money over the process, and
And to
and no
be
matter how
honest
you,
with you,
yeah,
though, even when I am helping with people, I always try to talk about the extreme situation. So worst
hmm
case scenario. So I do try to help my clients understand, okay, we're enrolling in this plan for next year. Worst case scenario from a financial perspective, this is what you should plan for.
right,
And then most likely you won't need to use those funds, but this is what you should kind of budget for. And then you just roll that bucket over next year. I
right,
mean, I'm a firm believer we should all be kind of financially planning for the worst case scenario. And when
right,
I say worst case scenario, especially even on the under 65 market, there's what's called an out of pocket maximum. So
sure,
that's the most you would have to pay in a calendar year for your health care. God forbid the worst thing were to happen to you. So that's what
sure,
people should be planning for. I know it's easier said than done, but at least you have something, right?
yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really good advice because, most of the time the worst case scenario won't occur. But if you, but in most cases, the minimum situation won't occur either. It'll
Yeah.
be somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
So if you plan for the bare minimum, you're likely going to be out of pocket more than you budgeted for.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, very good. Interesting. Well, that is a really great advice, Saadia. I really appreciate that. And we're going to take a quick break here. But when we come back, we're going to continue talking, maybe share some other success stories. I know you've helped lots of families out and mix and match in some plans, etc. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we'll take a quick break from our sponsor, and then we'll be back and continuing with Saadia Abdul from Health Markets. And before we do that, I almost forgot to get your information. So why don't you share your contact information? The best way for somebody to reach out to you, should they want to talk to you.
Yeah. So Saadia Abdul, my cell phone number is 630-306-2797. So that's 630-306-2797. And my email is S as in Sam, A, B as in boy, D as in dog, UL at healthmarkets.com. The easiest way to reach me is either a text or an email. And I say that because then I for sure will get your message. A lot of times people do try to call me. You can try to call me, but if I'm on an appointment, I'm probably not going to be able to answer that call. So I do look at my text messages from time to time just because, I have 2 kids. So sometimes I'm trying to keep track of them. But if I see your message in between and if I can help answer that question, I will right away. But yeah, you can get a hold of me. And then my office is in Des Plaines, but I actually work where I need to be. So I drive to a lot of my clients wherever they are within, an hour distance, or I do Zoom. I do a lot of Zoom appointments. So it's just good to know that we have that flexibility now.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm going to put your contact information into our show notes, and it'll be on the screen for our YouTube watchers. And if they have any questions and would like them to reach out to you, and to our listeners, when you do reach out to Saadia, make sure you tell her that you heard about her and her skills on I Got a Guy podcast. As referral partners, this is a great way for us to know how we're helping each other out, and it's a great way to keep score and make sure that we're doing the best we can for everyone. So let her know that you heard about her here on I Got a Guy podcast. So we'll take a short break. We'll come back and continue with Saadia Abdul from Health Markets. Be right back. We certainly hope you're enjoying this week's episode, and we'll return to this week's guest in just a moment. But now a message from our sponsor, Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. If you own a fleet of vehicles, even if it's just 2 or 3 vehicles, GPS tracking is an important component for every vehicle. Here are the 5 top reasons companies invest in GPS tracking: driver safety, vehicle location, driver behavior, proof of service, and monitoring vehicle maintenance. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions can enhance your growth and profit through the use of GPS tracking technology. Reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions at www.precisefleettracking.com. That's precisefleettracking.com. Or call 847-865-6008. That's 847-865-6008. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. GPS tracking made simple. Now, let's get back to the show. Okay, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. I am Michael Relichars, host of I Got a Guy podcast. Our guest today is none other than Saadia Abdul from Health Markets, a healthcare expert helping businesses and helping individuals take care of their health insurance needs, whether it's if they're under 65 and they just want health marketplace coverage, or if they're over 65 and need help with Medicare. So, Saadia, thank you so much for joining us again today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Saadia, so we were talking before the break about helping folks out with Medicare, and then you also shared some stories about people maybe with new families and new babies, etc. The one thing we didn't touch on is some of the supplemental coverage that I know you offer. A lot of employer plans, for example, I know don't necessarily offer dental care, for example, or maybe long-term disability is something that is not offered by every employer. So if somebody just wanted to have long-term disability or dental care, and there's others, you can help in those areas as well, correct?
Yes, exactly. So one of the things I think a lot of us kind of know, but maybe don't really realize, is one of the number one reasons Americans go into bankruptcy or are in debt is due to their healthcare expenses. So it's not, shopping or anything like that. It's their health. I mean, quite
Right.
frankly, somebody who runs into kind of bad luck, I guess, and has bad health, they can go into debt or bankruptcy. So there's several supplemental options to help protect you financially speaking in those events. So for example, there's a critical illness policy that you can get. So you do have to qualify. So you have to be healthier at the time of getting that coverage, but it would pay out depending on, what your budget is. We could set up a policy that would pay out $20,000 if, let's say, you get diagnosed with cancer, heart attack, or stroke. And usually the premium is pretty small for a policy like that. And wouldn't 20 grand at the time of a diagnosis like that really help out? Not just for your medical expenses, but your daily living expenses. What people forget is if you get diagnosed with one of those conditions, the likelihood of you being able to work for a little bit of time is probably small because you need to take care of your health.
Right.
But you still have ongoing bills. We
Right.
still have to pay our cell phone bill. We still have our car payment, our mortgage, our rent, whatever it is, food. So these policies are meant to financially help support you in the event of those health events happening. Another one would be like an accident policy. God forbid you're in an accident, not just car, but like even riding your bike or you fall off your ladder at home. Those are accidents, right? There's policies that would protect you and potentially pay out up to $10,000, $15,000 in that situation. So obviously that money could help pay for those medical bills, but then again, still leave you with some financial freedom to make sure you have enough money to take care of daily living expenses. Then, of course, dental and vision coverage, I am able to help with that. I'm also able to help with disability for maybe self-employed people who, are in the trades or something like that. So they're out there, they need to physically be able to do their job. What if something happens to them and now they can't physically do their, like an electrician, for example? An electrician typically can't work from home like you or I
Right.
can.
That's right.
And if they can't work, where's that income coming from?
Right.
So that's where disability insurance helps out, because that then will provide at least a monthly income while they're not able to work. So these are all benefits that a lot of people don't even realize exist or don't realize that they can get. Life insurance is another one. I do help with life insurance as well. A lot of people who are working for an employer, they receive a life insurance policy from their employer, but that's only at the time while they're working there. If they
Right.
leave that employer, all of a sudden that life insurance policy is gone. So it's important to protect yourself on the individual space, because you also don't want to feel that you have to be tied to that job because of these benefits, right? What a sense of freedom if you can move jobs to make yourself more happy
Right.
and still not have to worry about those, situations that may occur, and have yourself protected. So yeah, I help with all of that as well.
Yeah, I would imagine that if you survey people that are in their job against their desires, more than likely it's because they have a decent health care plan, and maybe they have healthcare needs, that switching would be a challenge for them.
Oh, it happens all the time. I have people telling me all the time, yeah, I'm staying at this job because of the benefits. I'm staying at the job because of the benefits. And I always tell people, well, you know what? You might have options. It's just a matter of talking it through and really understand your options.
Well, and the other aspect is eligibility, correct? Or I should say insurability. So, it might be best to like with life insurance, get some life insurance when you're young and healthy, that you protect yourself should your health change and maybe not be insurable down the road.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I'm a living and breathing example. I'm a cancer survivor. So now I can't get the life insurance somebody else who's my age and in my current health status, where I'm cancer free, I'm healthy now. But because I have that health history, I can't get the life insurance that someone else my age can get. Thank goodness in my particular situation, I already had policies in place at the time of my diagnosis. So which guaranteed my insurability for life. So now, I'm protected. My kids are protected. My husband's protected. But I do run into quite a few people say, "Oh, I'll just get that next year." And I have to have that conversation with them. Well, we don't know what's going to happen between now and next year. And if
Exactly.
something happens, now you're no longer insurable. And to your point, I'll also reiterate, like, the younger you are, the less expensive it is. And not only the cost, but you are guaranteeing your insurability for life. So there's like child life policies.
Yep.
I actually just had an appointment with a grandfather not 2 days ago. He has insured all 5 of his grandchildren with whole life policies. That's his gift to them, his legacy, if you will. So when these grandkids are older, they're going to know their grandpa help them with this policy. And not only that, those policies actually grow and have cash value. So those kids may be able to buy their first home, put their down payment with that cash value, or buy a car with that cash value.
Sure.
So great opportunity. It's just a matter of educating yourselves.
Right. Yeah, we did that with our children when they were toddlers. We put life insurance policy on. It was incredibly inexpensive and guaranteed insurability down the road. So um, I think that's really valuable advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So okay, so it's nice to know that you're not just the open enrollment gal and
Right.
the Medicare person, but you have a lot of other tools in your basket there to help families, depending on whatever their situation might be.
Yeah. I definitely approach it more holistically, and look at the whole situation when I sit and talk to people.
Yeah.
I'm just going to point out real quick, so because you said open enrollment, so I'm going to just mention right now we are in the middle of Medicare annual enrollment, which goes through December 7th. And then we're also in under 65 open enrollment, which runs through December 15th for a January 1st effective date, and then January 15th for a February 1st effective date. So this is the time to review your policies, make sure it's what you want, check out what might be available in 2024, because just like cell phones or cars, health insurance is constantly emerging and what is the word? Um, oh, I can't think of it all of a sudden. But they keep growing, getting better, and getting enhanced with different benefits. So, for
Mhm.
example, now on the under 65 market, some of the health insurance plans offer wellness programs, which, little bit of extra cash. I'll take $100 if somebody's going to give it to me just to go get my annual physical.
Sure.
So these are newer things that people don't know about. On the Medicare market, for sure, those plans keep evolving. They're giving away money left, right, and center, but you got to know which plans they are. You got to know, you got to make sure your meds are covered appropriately. But there's a lot of
Sure.
options. So just like I think cell phones is a good analogy, right? They come out with new phones every year, and people are always anxious to see what the new phone is, and they're willing to pay thousands of dollars for that new phone.
Correct.
Similar concept in your health. These health plans are evolving every year. So during annual enrollment is a great time to just look at your policy, see if it's still the right one. And if it's not, maybe make a change.
So there could be people that may have had the same plan for years and just automatically renewed it each year without making
Yep,
any changes.
that's right.
And what you're saying is, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, there could be drastic changes in the marketplace across the board.
And there are. I mean, I'm telling you, there are year to year. There's new options, new availability, and we should definitely not just sit tight and stay in the same plan because you could be missing out on a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm wondering here. I'm going to ask a question that I don't know the answer to. So, but I'm gonna ask a question anyway. So can a user go to their current healthcare provider and get a summary of all that they spent that for the current year, and then is that how they sit down with you to say, okay, I had this plan, and whether it be with Aetna or United Healthcare or Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever, I had a max out of pocket of X, and I spent this much, and this is what my prescription costs were. Do they have that kind of a summary so that you can say, all right, well, based on last year's activity, this is a good plan for you next year? You know what I'm
So,
saying?
yeah, I do understand what you're saying. So, of course, on every insurance company's website, you can create a username and password and go onto your online account and check your accumulators. The accumulators are your deductible and out of pocket. So you can definitely view what your history has been for the year. Just last night, I was sitting with a client who this is what we did for her. She's had to use the plan more than she had expected this year. And so she has expenses that, were kind of unexpected, if you will. And she's like, I want something. We started the conversation and she said, I need something that's going to cover me more. And, we got to change my plan. That's how we started the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
As we went through things and we looked at our options for 2024, we looked at the premium because that's a big piece of this puzzle. She ended up saying, you know what? It's not so bad what I went through this year. I'm going to stay with the plan I have. So this happens a lot, actually. When we start looking at options, people think, oh, I can get something less expensive with more coverage. Maybe, maybe not, So it definitely helps me when I know what you've spent this year. But then again, that could be a blip in your health journey. Not every year will be the same. So we can use that as a guide and as a tool. I'll just give a quick example right now because I'm living through this myself. My daughter had to have a surgery about 10 weeks ago now, 11 weeks ago today. And she needed an MRI, then the surgery, doctor's visits, PT, blah, blah, blah. I got curious last week and I was wondering, well, how much is this, how much are these services costing and how much are they billing? So I went to the carrier's website, logged in. I pulled up her summary, you can sort by dates. So I sorted on her and by dates and I could see what's been billed. So she had a knee surgery. She dislocated her kneecap. It was a 4.5-hour surgery. We were probably in the hospital about 2 hours before the surgery and maybe 2 hours after. Okay, so maybe in 8 hours we were in the hospital, not overnight or anything like that. Right at this point, we're still receiving bills. At this point, we racked up. They have billed over $130,000.
Wow.
That's how much they've billed. Now, that's not what we're paying. That's not what the insurance is paying even. So here comes the value of insurance. If I didn't have insurance, it would be $130,000. That's how much they've billed. Now, what people will do is they'll try to negotiate down themselves, and then they'll try to get themselves on a payment plan, if they didn't have health insurance. What health insurance did for us is that negotiated that $130,000 down. I think we're under about 20 grand negotiated down.
Wow.
Okay. And then what we owe is the deductible.
Sure.
And out of pocket. So while that, and I have a high deductible health plan, personally speaking, but that even that high deductible compared to $130,000 doesn't seem so bad.
Right.
So
You-
that's the value of health insurance. So sometimes people will say to me, if I have this high deductible, what's the point in having health insurance? And constantly trying to help them understand, if you don't have the health insurance, you don't get the negotiated rate. And these
Right.
hospitals and these doctors can just charge whatever they feel like,
Right.
you know?
And I would imagine as an individual, no matter how much you plead with the finance office of that insurance company, you don't have the leverage
No,
that an
because
insurance company has.
no, I just, again, I mean, this is like my daily life. I had a lady just told me yesterday. She said she was at the dentist in last year, and the dentist, her bill was over $2,000. So she's on a payment plan. She can afford $50 a month barely, and she was just telling me that the finance people in that dental office treat her like garbage because she's only paying $50 a month. They're like, "You owe us more," and she's like, "This is all I can afford." Um, and she didn't have dental insurance.
That's
So
unfortunate.
yeah, so that's why she's on the hook. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you're right. They don't have the leverage. If you don't have the health insurance to back you up, you don't have a whole lot of leverage. Yeah, you can negotiate a little bit down, but remember what I said about 20 minutes ago, which is this health costs are the number one reason why people go into debt.
Sure.
All right. And trust you me, these hospitals and doctors' offices don't hesitate to send you to collections.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
gotta plan for that.
Yeah. They will. They have a lot of resources behind them to fight you, the little guy, the individual,
That's right.
and you can't. It's hard to compete in that environment. So you almost have to just concede and decide to pay it.
Yeah, and I throw in another thing. We all insure our cars, our vehicles, right? We insure our homes or we have rental insurance, and we all do that. I mean, pretty much, there's not a whole lot of people running around without the insurance on the cars, and we always hope to have a good year. We hope to not have a claim. We hope to not have an accident where we need to have our car fixed, right? So we're paying this car insurance, we're paying this homeowner's insurance, and no one ever says, well, if I don't have an accident, will I get my premium back? Will I get my money back? No one
Right.
ever asks that question. But I can't tell you how many times I get that question asked from health insurance and from life
Really?
insurance. Oh, all the time. Well, I'm healthy. I don't need anything. So why should I pay for health insurance? And I ask them, do you ask that same question about your car, or are you just insuring your car? Well, that's different. And I said, no, it's not. And actually, it's quite opposite, because you need your health to even drive that car. So if you don't have your health, you can't even drive that car that you're insuring. And same with life insurance. People tell me all the time, oh, I can't afford that. I don't need that. And I'm like, okay, but if you're the primary breadwinner, or even if you're the homemaker taking care of the kids at home, and maybe you're not bringing in an active income from outside, if something happens to you, how in the world are your kids going to get taken care of?
Right.
Yeah, GoFundMe's only go so
Yeah.
I don't think we should be depending on GoFundMe's. If you can plan for these events, why not? So it's no different than getting car insurance. It's no different than getting property insurance.
Yeah. You're exactly right. And the other important component is, and I've noticed this in my personal life, for people I know that don't have, or didn't have, or don't have proper health insurance, they typically are far less healthy because they go to the doctor less often and don't take care of the little things before they become big things. Then
Hmm.
all of a sudden the wheels fall off the bus and they're in a bad situation. And now it's costing them a lot more, and sometimes it's irreversible.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's definitely a snowball rolling down the hill. So if you have proper insurance up front, or you can go and maybe you pay your copay at $10 or $45 or whatever it is, and you get taken care of, before the bronchitis turns into pneumonia, for example. You are in a lot better situation health wise than if you delay because I can't afford it, and then you're in a situation where you're in the hospital.
Yeah. And by the way, preventative care on the marketplace is covered at 100%.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that one annual visit a year just to go make sure everything is okay, you don't even have to pay for that.
And help us understand, because we all know health insurance is expensive, quote unquote,
Hmm.
but you can get plans that cost a few $100s a month, correct?
Yeah, so it depends. The marketplace, which is the Affordable Care Act, if then this is for people who don't have health insurance available to them through their employer or through a parent or through a spouse or whatever it is. Um, there are subsidies available. So depending on your income level, you may be eligible for some subsidy, which would be the government helping you to pay for a portion of your premium. And you'd actually be kind of surprised at how high that income can be. I have people making six figures and they're still eligible for subsidy. It
Really?
depends. There's many factors that play into it. So it's not just your income, but it could be your age and how many household members you have and things like that. But that's what I do. I go through that whole exercise with you. I try to figure out if there's any subsidy. And then, yeah, we look for affordable plans. So anytime I'm having a conversation with my clients, we talk about their budget for healthcare. And I'd say about 98% of the time, somebody tells me, I don't have a budget. I don't know how much it costs. And I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter how much it costs. What matters is how much can you afford to pay every month. So let's talk about that. And then I'm going to try to fit into that. I'm going to tell you, well, this is what you can get for that. And then in that situation, 9 times out of 10, people will say, well, I can afford a little bit more for different coverage,
Sure.
and then we start talking. And so it's people understanding what they can afford, and what they're willing to pay for, and what they get for that money. So that's all part of the what I do. That's why I say I take a very consultative approach,
Yeah.
to work with my clients.
Yeah, that is really important. There's so many moving factors in this equation
Hmm.
that everybody really needs somebody to help them through it. Watching a YouTube video on a website, or reading a blog isn't going to answer all your questions. You really need to have somebody with some expertise
Yeah,
that has
that
helped.
just reminds me right now what I'm living and breathing on the Medicare side. Almost daily, I sit down with a client and they tell me right off the bat, well, my friend said, that, or my, brother-in-law said that I should not do XYZ. And then I say, okay, so your friend or brother-in-law or whoever, have they ever used that XYZ plan? Well, no. And so I'm like, okay, so, and are they the expert in it? Like, do they do this all day, every day? No. So how are they giving you such a strong opinion about something they've never even used? I said, have you talked to somebody who has used XYZ plan? No. So then I'm like, well, then how are we making a decision based off of somebody who doesn't is not the expert, who doesn't do
Right.
this all day long? They only know their own situation. And so yeah, they're the expert in their situation, but they're not the expert in your situation.
Right.
I have that conversation daily. I also have the conversation if I sit down with somebody and they tell me I want the best insurance. And I look at them and I said, okay, what's best to you? Because what's best to you may not be best to me or best to the person over here.
Right.
So, and then every single time, well, I don't know what that means. Okay, so now you're asking me for something that you don't even know what it means. So how am I supposed to know what it means? So it's a lot of this conversation and helping people really think about what they're asking for. Because most of the time people don't really know what they're asking for.
Sure. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense, and it's and that would be, I think, the challenge you just explained would be difficult if you were in a static market.
Hmm.
But the fact that your market changes so drastically every year that it doesn't matter what somebody's experiences were last year or 2 years ago, it's completely irrelevant.
Hmm.
So not only are they not experts, they're probably basing their non-expert opinion on old information.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So really, the long and short of it is, to any of our listeners, if you have any health insurance questions, reach out to Saadia. Um, Let me ask you, Saadia, real quick question here. Do you just serve Illinois?
I'm licensed in about 12 states now. So I do service employees across the country. And this has happened many times now. Like I had a client move from Illinois to Florida and I was not licensed there. She asked me, please, 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 can you get licensed in Florida? So I did. Or sometimes I have referrals. Somebody tells me their brother lives wherever, in a different state, like Texas, for example, this happened. And I said, okay, I'll get licensed in Texas. So the good news is I'm able to get licensed sometimes, depending on the situation. But right now I am licensed in about 12 states, including California, Colorado, Florida, Texas. Those are some of the bigger ones. And then, of course, our surrounding states. So Indiana, Michigan, I'm licensed in those states as well.
Okay, that's
in
awesome.
Wisconsin.
We do, a lot of our listeners are here in the Illinois area, but we do have an awful lot of listeners from across the country, and I want to make sure that if they have a question, they should reach out to you and see if you are in fact licensed wherever they live, and see if you can help them in some way. So I can't emphasize that enough to our listeners. If you've been listening to our podcast here over the past year or so, I'm very passionate about the guests that we have each and every week, and I hand select our guests specifically because I know them and I trust them and I rely on them, and I would not introduce you to somebody that I didn't believe was really an expert in their area, and this is so important and so true for what Saadia does. So if you have any questions at all, reach out to Saadia via email or via phone or text, and she'll have a conversation with you. If she can help you, she will. If she needs to point you in a different direction, she'll do that too. So, Saadia, share your information with our listeners again.
Sure. So my name is Saadia Abdul, and my direct number is 630-306-2797. And my email is sabdul, so that's S as in Sam, A, B as in boy, D as in dog, UL, at healthmarkets.com. So that's HEALTHMARKETS.com. And again, my phone number one more time, 630-306-2797. Thank you.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, again, make sure you mention to Saadia that you heard about her here on I Got a Guy podcast. And if you know anybody that, and actually, you know what, we didn't touch on that I think is really important, and I'm sorry if it's kind of feels disjointed, but when it comes to Medicare, somebody that's just turning 65, you have 3 months before your 65th birth month to select Medicare, the month of your birth, and 3 months after your birth month.
Yep.
So you have a 7-month window.
Yeah, 7-month window. But I definitely encourage people to start the process at least 2 to 3 months before their 65th birthday month. And then, when I say start the process, that's calling Social Security to initiate your Part B, because Part A is automatic, actually. But initiate your Part B. And then once somebody gets their Medicare card, the red, white, and blue card, they can contact me, and I'll help them select a plan. But, a lot of times I have people call me a year before they're retiring just to ask what's happening, and I will guide them. I mean, like I said, I'm along for the journey. So I tell people, give me a call. I'll help guide you.
Yeah. Well, the important component here is if you wait too long and you don't process Medicare, you pay a penalty each and every month for the rest of your life.
Yes, but I will be put a little asterisk next to that, because if you're working still and you have employer health insurance, or you're married to somebody who has you covered on their employer plan past turning to 65, that's okay then. You don't need to initiate your Medicare. You only need to initiate it, if you're going to stay on an employer plan or a qualified health plan past turning 65, whenever you're going to lose that coverage, then you would be able to enroll in Medicare and not have a penalty.
Okay. But you have to be careful around that. So it's just the long and short of it is the best thing to do is to reach out to you before your 65th birthday. To understand what's going on and make sure you're lined up and covered, so you don't have any exposure there.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, great. All right. Well, Saadia, anything else you want to share with our audience before we wrap up the show?
No, I just appreciate your time and appreciate you having me on. I always love chatting with you. And, I want to just throw it back at you that you're a great guy and a very trustworthy person to do business with. And we've known each other for a few years. So I just love that we've gotten to be friends and then also good referral partners. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And to our listeners, so not only am I the host of I Got a Guy podcast, my day job is running Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. We are a full service GPS tracking company. We help businesses that own commercial vehicles enhance their growth and profit through the use of GPS tracking technology. If you happen to own any commercial vehicles and you're ever curious about, gee, where are my drivers today? We should have a conversation. I'd love to share with you what we can offer to you. Now, we're not a fit for everybody. It doesn't fit in every situation, but there are very few cases where it doesn't fit. So I'd love to have a conversation with you and see if this is something that would benefit you. So the best way to find out a little bit more about Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions is to research us on our website at precisefleettracking.com. That's precisefleettracking.com. Or call us at 847-865-6008. 847-865-6008. So thank you for that. And again, Saadia, thank you so much for joining us. And to our listeners, thank you for listening. Share this, subscribe, and we will be in touch with you again next week. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. For past podcasts and more information, go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com. Please share this podcast on your social media feeds and tune in again next week to I Got a Guy podcast.